Francine is inland and putting down quite a bit of rain across parts of Mississippi and Tennessee and Arkansas. We also have the eastern part of that. There's actually a little low that's starting to form off the southeast coast, and that'll be developing over the next couple of days. We'll see what that does. In the meantime, nice weather continues across the Great Lakes, the Ohio Valley, the northern mid-Atlantic states on up into New England. And that's all tonight on the Joe and Joe Weather Show podcast. And if you'd like to support the Joe and Joe Weather Show podcast and you shop on Amazon, use the referral link pinned at the top of the chat board or on the description to this podcast. You'll get your stuff. Amazon throws us a little bit of coin. It's nothing out of your pocket. It's out of theirs. And everybody's happy. So we appreciate your support by shopping our link on Amazon. I turned the camera tonight so you can see the dog, as he does every night when the show is on. He comes in and just sleeps right through it.
And there he is in the background.
What's that?
I said, there he is in the background. Hello,
yes.
JJ.
JJ is, he's out for now. He'll only stay for so long, then he'll go on the floor because I guess he gets too warm on the bed. But so, interesting statistic, Joe. Everybody's been sort of wondering about this particular hurricane season because of the fact that the number of storms has been somewhat subdued.
Yes.
So I'm going to find this one. I thought this was really interesting. Just give me a moment here. So this was, all right, where is it? Oh, here it is. Okay, so this is from Content Weather Guy, formerly known as Cranky Weather Guy or Cranky Weatherman.
Okay.
Because he's back now as Content Weather Guy. All 6 storms so far, okay, all 6 storms, just to remind everybody, have made landfall this season. Beryl, Alberto, and Chris in Mexico. Beryl in Grenada as a Cat 4. In Mexico as a Cat 2. And in Texas as a Cat 1. Hurricane Debbie as a Cat 1 in Florida. Hurricane Ernesto as a Cat 1 in Bermuda. Not sure if it landfalled in the Virgin Islands. And Hurricane Francine in Louisiana as a Cat 2. And this is the 3rd continental U.S. hurricane landfall this year, Beryl, Debbie, Francine. 8 other years since 1900 that we've had 3 continental U.S. hurricane landfalls by the 11th of September. And those were in the years 1915, 1916, 1933, 1934, 1985, 2004, 2005, and 2020.
Well, considering the fact that, this hasn't been a hurricane season to write home about, if you're into that sort of thing, still, nonetheless, out of the 6 that we have had, as you mentioned, Joe, half of them, 50%, have made landfall here in the contiguous United States, and that's pretty good. We get sometimes on occasions we get hurricane seasons where we have literally a plethora, a tremendous number of storms, and yet only 1 or 2 will only hit the United States. They'll seemingly miss the U.S. We're very lucky, but percentage-wise, we're batting 500 so far this particular season.
All right, and just on basis of landfalls, we're 6 for 6. So there you go. Welcome tonight to everybody on the chat board. A big hello to you, and big hellos to everybody that's lurking. They're lurking in the background because there are always some people that are. We welcome you to tonight's Joe and Joe Weather Show podcast. We're here Sunday through Thursday at 7:35 p.m. Fridays and Saturdays are off days unless there's a storm around, in which case we'll add a show or 2, and then we'll let you know that we're doing it so you don't miss us. And then we rearrange the schedule, take an off day on a day where there's not that much going on. So subscribe, turn your notifications on, and if you like the show, hit the like button.
Well, we're going to see in a moment the radars of what is happening in the wake of the landfall of Hurricane Francine. But it's noteworthy to point out, Joe, that on this particular date, there were two storms which had a very significant effect on the New York tri state area. In 1944, the very first wave of rain associated with a developing hurricane still south of the Bahamas moved through the tri state area during the afternoon and evening and amounted to 1.64 inches of rain. More than twice this amount would fall tomorrow, as well as the day after that, as what would become known as the Great Atlantic Hurricane moved up along the eastern seaboard, along the Atlantic seaboard of the U.S. That was, again, in 1944 on this day and in the next few days coming up. And in 1960, a storm which I have very, very vague remembrance of, 1960, rain and high winds from Hurricane Donna lashed the area during the morning through the first half of the afternoon. 2.36 inches of rain fell. Heaviest was between noon and 3 p.m. Winds gusted to 40 to 50 miles per hour at LaGuardia and 90 miles per hour, and 3.63 inches of rain fell at Central Park. So that storm, again, 1960 on this date. How many of you out there remember that particular storm? It's funny. I have a very, like I said, I have a very vague remembrance of that storm, and yet I have a very vivid memory of another 1960 event, which I I went through, and I was just talking about that just the other day with somebody. I was on the Howdy Doody, one of the very last Howdy Doody shows. Howdy Doody, one of the earliest, uh, one of the pioneer television shows of NBC in 1947 to 1960, and very famous. It was a kids show that was on. This one was on Saturday. I remember it was a taped version of that, which would air, and I don't know, it went off the air in September, early September of 1960, but somehow my mom got me into the peanut gallery. Very, very difficult ticket to get. And I remember so clearly that particular event of being on the Howdy Doody show, must have been August of 1960, and yet I have only vague remembrance of Donna, Hurricane Donna, when it lashed the tri-state area with tremendous winds and heavy-duty rains, and that was a big, big storm. In fact, that storm, Donna, put an end to the to an active period of hurricanes here in the New York area. We had several hurricanes or near bouts of hurricane activity during the 1950s as they swept either into or close to our area. 1960 marked Donna. After Donna, the next time we would have an influence from a hurricane, a close encounter, would not be until 16 years later with Hurricane Bell in August of 1976. So Donna was the last major hurricane here in the New York area for a good number of years. And after Bell in 76, we had to wait another 9 years for Gloria in 1985. So they don't really come too often. And I want to keep my mouth shut because we're only halfway through the official hurricane season this year. And who knows what awaits us maybe later in September or October. But for the moment, at least, we don't have to worry about any hurricanes here in the New York metropolitan area, although it's a whole different story because a lot of places to our south that are receiving some significant rains from what was once Hurricane Francine, which we'll see in just a moment.
There seems to be, there's a cyclical nature to tropical cyclones, and where they wind up making landfalls or impacting the East Coast versus the Gulf of Mexico and the Caribbean. You can go, as you said, up in the eastern seaboard. You have decades like the 50s where you have two or three of them. Like 1954, there was three. 55, there was a couple, and I think there was a couple more before the end of the decade. So, and then you go into these long silent periods. So, it's all part of the plot, I guess. But
Yeah.
right now, at least right now, there's nothing. Debbie, I'm sorry, Francine, now inland. So there is nothing really pending. There's a depression way out in the Atlantic, but that's probably not going to be an issue. Uh, Looks like it'll probably get caught by the westerly. So that might be the first storm that winds up recurving. So we have Debbie. Before you, I'm just going to take it for 1 second here, Joe. You got the radars ready. Let me just really quick. I just want to run through some of the warnings that are up and watches and everything else. And we have all sorts of wind advisories up in Alabama, Mississippi, eastern Arkansas, northwest Louisiana, western Tennessee. Also in north and northwest Georgia, they have me under a wind advisory. We've got flood watches up too in parts of western Georgia down to the Florida Panhandle, also extending northwestward across Tennessee and points west. Haven't seen too many flash flood warnings yet. The yellow in Alabama is a tornado watch that's going on right now. In the west, we have a severe thunderstorm watch in southeast Montana and northeast Wyoming, with some frost advisories in western Montana and in parts of Idaho, and a lot of red flag warnings up from the Dakotas down into Colorado and west over into Utah. But Debbie being inland has been bringing a lot of rain. Tennessee getting hit particularly hard at this point, and Mr. Rayo is going to take you all on a radar tour of what is happening.
Yes, and we're going to start off with Paducah, Kentucky, and you can see that there's several very distinct rain bands, I guess related to the spiral bands of what was once Francine, that is moving from south to north, up across western sections of Tennessee, northeastern sections of Arkansas, and into southeastern sections of Kentucky. We also have southwestern sections of Kentucky and into the southern and southeastern sections of Missouri, and even into the far southern end of Illinois. And wherever you happen to see the yellows or the oranges, that's probably where we're getting moderate to even heavy rain activity, courtesy of the remnants of Francine. Now let's move somewhere else. Let's move a little bit further to the south. Let's go down to Chattanooga. And Chattanooga doesn't really old. Actually, this is Fort Campbell, Kentucky, Trenton. And you can see that the bands of heavy rain are a little bit more well defined over western sections of Tennessee and on up into southwestern sections of Kentucky. Let me go a little bit more to the east. More to the west. Let's go into, we already did Paducah, so we'll skip that and go to, this is Springfield, Missouri. And I have to tell you, Joe, that the areas, the radar stations are very widely scattered here. That's why it's a little bit difficult to hone in. This shows you, again, the southern and eastern sections of Missouri and also the northern end of Arkansas. Let me see what I can get.
Go down to Birmingham because there's some strong thunderstorms there. That's where the tornado watch is up.
Okay,
By the
well,
way, yeah, no, I was just going to say it's 7:40 p.m. Eastern time. In case you're watching this on a replay later on tonight or even first thing tomorrow morning, so just bear that in mind. Go to weather.gov for the latest weather information regarding any severe weather or any weather that's going on in your particular neck of the woods.
well, this what you're seeing here is Columbus Air Force Base in Mississippi, Greenwood, Mississippi. And Joe mentioned the thunderstorms that were adversely affecting Alabama, and you can see them here. This here is Alabama. This here is Mississippi. You can see that a lot of the activity, I would suppose, Joe, that this is near the center of what was Francine. She is moving to the north. Actually, it looks like she's moving to the north and northwest. But there's one particular band which has embedded heavy thunderstorm activity. That's what's probably causing the tornado advisories that are up across Alabama.
The center actually shows up in southwestern Tennessee, northwest Mississippi on the radar. I got the wide view on my screen. I'm looking at that. The center's still pretty well defined on the radar.
Take a look. Here, this is Birmingham. You asked for it. And Birmingham does indeed show, at least in the initial few frames of the loop, a very narrow, albeit very solid line of showers and locally strong thunderstorms. It kind of breaks up a bit with the passage of time. And actually, there's a second area back here that gets itself together. But you can see that this is a zone where they are concerned about possible gusty, strong, damaging winds and funnel clouds and tornadoes. Again, across, it seems like it's moving more or less west to east, in from western sections of Alabama to central Alabama by the time the loop comes to an end. And where else can we go? Um,
Well, you could show the rain in South Carolina and Western Tennessee.
well, let's go to Columbus, Columbia, I should say, South Carolina, and you can see that there are areas of showers. There doesn't appear to be anything particularly intense, but some of these showers have been dropping quite a bit of rain. The area around Columbus itself doesn't appear to be too out of place, but up in the northwest corner, this is toward Greenville and Spartansburg, they've had some significant shower activity. And again, let's move over to the north and west on up into this is well, here is Greenville, Spartanburg, and you can see the area of rain and showers affecting also the westernmost part of North Carolina and extending into the North Carolina Tennessee border. So there's some rain out there, and it is somewhat significant, again, associated with the moisture from Francine. Just want to go down to Tallahassee and see if they can be concerned about anything. Well, actually, you could see across Florida. Let me move this a little bit more to the south and to the east. Let's go to Melbourne, Florida, and you can see moving into the central part of Florida is a rather significant area of showery rains and embedded thunderstorms. Again, moving from west northwest to east southeast. Here's Lake Okeechobee down here. They're not really in any particular danger of getting hit by anything significant, but again, way off to the north and west over northern sections of Florida. Let's take a look at the radar from Jacksonville, and you can see here, the area of moisture again moving through the northern end of the Sunshine State, which doesn't appear to have very much in the way of sunshine with all of this rain coming on down over the northern section of Florida right now.
All right, I'm going to widen it out so you can get a larger picture of all of this. And one of the things that's happened, and I kind of went through this today. First of all, I had a northeast wind all day, so I started out this morning. My low was 60 and my high was 65. So it was a cloudy day, um, and sometimes when it's just a cloudy day like today, it was actually quite enjoying. Because the sun is still pretty strong here, even though it doesn't really get all that hot here in North Georgia. But what was really fascinating to me this morning was when I looked at the radar, which was loaded with rain echoes across Alabama and most of Georgia, and this whole big rain shield was coming into the Northeast. There's been so much dry air here that you would look at the radar and you would think it would be raining steadily. Okay, I think if I got 5 drops of rain, it was a lot. I don't even think had enough rain to measure a hundredth. It all just kind of dried up, and all that dry air that's been in the Northeast and Mid Atlantic states and in the Ohio Valley and Great Lakes, and that's of course a lot of that's bled down southward the last couple of days. But the atmosphere just could not saturate at all. So I missed out on rain today, and as far as the Northeast is concerned, there are actually a couple of speckles in upstate New York, near just north of Albany, near the Northway, moving southeast. They just look like light stuff. There's nothing going on in the rest of the state. There's virtually nothing going on from Maine down into Virginia. and then west across Ohio, Indiana, Illinois, except the southern parts of those two states, Michigan, Wisconsin. We do have bands of showers and thunderstorms in the western Dakotas, as well as in Montana, in northeastern Wyoming, some clusters of showers and storms in central and western Montana, and back over into parts of Idaho. The west coast is fairly quiet. And here's what it looks like on the satellite loop. What's kind of interesting is that the area here, you could see obviously where the remnant circulation of Francine is, but there's sort of this arm that's on the eastern flank of this is pushing into off the southeast coast. And there's actually a little bit of a low that's developing already. Pressures are below normal because of the big high to the north. Pressures are lower than normal across the southeast and down to Florida, so a low is trying to form here. It's non-tropical in nature, at least for now. The west, you see the trough. There's a deep trough that's coming into the northwest, and that's triggering off those showers and storms there, and hopefully brings a break to some of the endless hot weather that they've had in parts of Arizona and Southern California. Elena, tropical storm Elena, is on the Pacific side, is south of Baja California, pushing moisture northward there. Probably will hold on to its tropical storm status for a while, but it doesn't look like it's going to become a hurricane before it makes a graze over the southern Baja Peninsula and then runs its way up into the Gulf of California. A lot of this moisture may eventually wind up in points north in Arizona and maybe even into New Mexico. The Storm Prediction Center, there's your tornado watch in central and northern Alabama. We have a marginal to slight risk there. We have an enhanced risk in eastern Montana and the western Dakotas, where we have a severe thunderstorm watch up right now. And tomorrow, the marginal risk is going to be in Alabama, western Georgia, and the Florida Panhandle, and a small portion of central Tennessee. There's also some general thunderstorms being indicated for Vermont, New Hampshire, and Maine, and northern Massachusetts. There's a weak upper trough that's going to be going through New England, and that might set off a couple of scattered showers or storms on Friday, and also an area of general storms from the eastern Dakotas in a narrow band that goes all the way down to the Oklahoma Panhandle, and then east across Minnesota into western Wisconsin and northeastern Iowa. And by the way, there is tornado risk tomorrow of 2% in that zone in Alabama, western Georgia, and into Tennessee. Tonight, I'm going to just go back to tonight to look at the tornado risk, and it's 2% up in Montana and western North Dakota, 2 to 5% across Alabama to the Florida Panhandle. So it's active from that standpoint. And that's it. After day three, there's nothing as far as severe weather is concerned on day three, although we have general thunderstorms in the southeast, general thunderstorms in the upper Midwest and parts of the plains. But from Maine down to northern North Carolina and west back into Ohio and Indiana and Michigan, we've got no thunderstorm activity to worry about. And here's the 7-day rainfall. And now they took it out. Yesterday they had a half an inch up to about New York City. Now they got about a tenth of an inch. Many areas from northeast Pennsylvania to Maine won't see any rain for 7 days. And also around the Great Lakes, we see areas that will not see any rain over the next 7 days. Meanwhile, we've got that orange area is 5 to 7 inches, northern Alabama to central Tennessee. Also, coastal north and parts of easternmost South Carolina in this 5 to 7 inch rain band over the next 7 days. And the inch and a half kind of pushes westward into western North Carolina, western South Carolina. And then in Georgia, we're seeing inch and a half plus amounts in the northeast and 2 to 3 inch amounts to the southwest. And this is a bit front end loaded with the remnants of Francine. So, third day in a row that we've been on, I could say the same thing. Nothing much has really changed, Joe, for the weekend. The first high is going out. There's another high that's coming down out of Labrador into Maine as we go through the weekend. But the onshore flow is really from Virginia southward. And this is where you might see a low that will try to develop off the southeast coast Sunday and Monday. The models have kind of backed off a little bit on, they were kind of maybe implying that this could become maybe it still could become a tropical depression or a tropical storm before it makes landfall. The latest GFS run wants to take north up the Appalachians and try and push rain up the coast, but it doesn't get here till Tuesday. It doesn't get to eastern Pennsylvania to southern New England until Tuesday night into Wednesday. So it's a long ways to wait here. We still have this long. We got the weekend and the first couple of days of next week. I mean, I really don't see much happening. I mean, nothing much is going to happen uh, until maybe the middle part of next week.
And the European is not quite as robust with that system for early next week along the Atlantic seaboard. In fact,
I'll put that on the screen.
I
Go
mean,
ahead,
if
huh?
if you look out ahead, the GFS is trying to bring moisture up here by late Tuesday or Tuesday night, and the European is basically just saying no, no, you don't. It stays well south and keeps us dry. In fact, if you go by the European, if you take the European at face value, the European only goes out to 240 hours on the tropical tidbit. If you take the European as face value, Joe, the immediate tri-state metropolitan area doesn't get a drop of rain until sometime around all the way through the 22nd of September, for God's
Yeah,
sake. So,
yeah. There's a deep trough that's coming into the west, and that just really pretty much reinforces this big upper high in the eastern over the Great Lakes in the Northeast through the weekend. It only gets stronger. I mean, there's a 590, what is it, a 593 height, closed height in Pennsylvania, western New York, and eastern Michigan. There's a deep upper low that drops down the coast of California and into southern Nevada. This, I think, will probably bring a break to the endless 100-degree plus highs that we've been seeing in places like Phoenix. That this trough is fairly, rather significant, but a deep trough in the west means that it's mostly ridging in the east, and you can see what's also happening with the remnant upper feature of Francine, which is this cutoff low that is in Arkansas. It just sort of slides southeastward through the southeast, and just gets left behind to some extent in the Gulf states, but there's lower pressures that are off along and off the South and North Carolina coast and the Georgia coast. So that's where you'll have to watch to see if something tries to form there. But there's no real flow in the east. With the ridge all the way up, I mean, you got to go all the way to James Bay to find the first line of northwest winds in the upper atmosphere. I mean, that's how strong this ridge is. This is about as strong and long lasting a ridge in the eastern part of the United States in the month of September that I, I think I've ever seen. And going out to 10 days, it's still there. And if we take the GFS at face value, it does start to change things after the 22nd in the upper atmosphere. You finally start the ridge finally does break down. It just the European takes longer to break it down, but the GFS seems to want to start breaking it down after the week during the weekend of the 21st, 22nd, and then it starts to bring more westerlies in. But then it pops the ridge back up again toward the end of the forecast period as troughs drop into the middle and off the west coast. So uh, it doesn't appear, unless there's something tropical that forms somewhere and somehow finds its way to the east coast. There does not appear to be any significant rain events for the next week and a half,
all right. Well,
at the very least.
speaking of dry weather, I put up. If you go back to my page, today is the day when the drought monitor is updated. This is the very latest drought information from the Climate Prediction Center, the U.S. Drought Monitor. And I started off with your neck of the woods, Joe, because I wanted to show you where you stand in terms of drought. And it looks like right now you have now been upgraded to a D1 or a moderate drought where you are. Over into the central part of Georgia, it's just listed as abnormally dry. And in southern Georgia, there's no drought to speak of. They have, good conditions all the way down through the Florida Peninsula. In Florida, the Panhandle is right now going through a period of severe drought on this map. And in fact, adjacent Alabama has everything from a few spots with abnormally dry conditions. Mostly, well, actually, about half the state of Alabama is in moderate drought. The other half, the northwest part and the southeast part, is experiencing D2, a severe drought condition. Now, if you want to go and take a look at what's going on elsewhere, here in the northeastern part of the country, we're sitting pretty for the most part. We don't have any drought problems. It does look like it is abnormally dry over southern and central New Jersey. Much of Pennsylvania is pretty good, except the southwest over toward Pittsburgh, where they go from abnormally dry to moderate to even severe drought in southwest Pittsburgh, not southwest Pennsylvania. Now take a look at West Virginia. West Virginia, virtually the entire state is in a really droughty condition. The least concern is extreme southern West Virginia and the Panhandle area of West Virginia. There, they only have, only he says somewhat sarcastically, severe drought. But then look, much of the state of West Virginia, the central area, over into the western part of West Virginia, extreme drought. And in fact, right in the western end of West Virginia, they are going through exceptional drought. So apparently, whereas all of the wet weather and the rain has been falling in recent days and weeks over much of the Northeast and New England, a lot of that has missed West Virginia. And again, West Virginia now experiencing some real problems with extreme or even exceptional drought in parts of that state. Let me just show you the whole country, and the Northeast is in pretty good shape. The Mid-Atlantic down to the Florida Peninsula also in fairly good shape. It's just that one area, and in fact, let me bring up Ohio. Ohio, like West Virginia, southern end of Ohio is experiencing that extreme to exceptional drought condition. Rest of the state going through severe drought or moderate drought. Some spots in Ohio abnormally dry. The lower peninsula of Michigan looks pretty good. And most of the Midwestern states, pretty much at worst, going through abnormally dry conditions. There are some areas that have no drought at all, and others that seem to be into a moderate drought condition. But generally, the conditions in the Midwest are not overly bad. And if you look over into the southern part of the country, particularly, let's say, in Texas, the west end of Texas, and of course, Texas is a big state. West end is going through extreme to severe, extreme to exceptional drought. Rest of the big state, though, has anything from no drought to just abnormally dry weather. There are some spots in Oklahoma and also in portions of northern Mississippi and west central Tennessee that are going through extreme drought. But it's not terrible. I mean, we have seen in past years conditions like sometimes way out west. They've gone through a wide swath of the West in extreme or exceptional drought. And, you expect that. You expect dry or abnormally dry conditions out west because that's not the rain season, it's the dry season out there. But all they're seeing right now, Joe, is just basically either dry conditions or no drought at all. Take a look at California. I mean, I've known Septembers in California where they've had, extreme or exceptional drought. Northern part of California is abnormally dry. Rest of California, for the most part, is under hardly any drought conditions at all. Western Montana and northeastern sections of Wyoming, they are in the areas where the drought is extreme or even exceptional. So that's the drought situation nationwide. Again, this map was released today, September 12th, and we'll have an update to this a week from now on the 19th.
All right. Tropical Depression 7. And that's what it looks like on the satellite loop tonight. You'll notice that the clouds are getting blown away to the northeast. So there is shear here going on. It's not terrible looking. I mean, obviously there's a circulation. You certainly can see it. But and there seems to be a cluster of thunderstorms near what might be the center. Center doesn't look to be exposed, but there is some southwest shear that seems to be blowing away some of the tops. So that's probably the reason why we haven't seen this strengthen very much. And the center of this is way out. It's at 18.3 north, 35.9 west. That's probably about 300 miles or so, or maybe a little bit more than that, west of the Cabo Verde Islands. And they're carrying top winds at 35 miles an hour. The other one I wanted to look at too was Elena, and this is on the Pacific side at 5 p.m. Mountain Standard Time. It was at 20.5 and 108.2 west. Maximum sustained winds of 40 miles an hour, so it's a minimal tropical storm. And they do have tropical storm warnings up for the southern portion of the Baja Peninsula. You can see the track takes it right over that southernmost portion, brings it back into the Gulf of California as a tropical storm, and then just weakens it as it goes northward up the Gulf of California into northwest Mexico. So again, some of that moisture may wind up getting into Arizona down the road. And just to see if I'll bring up a satellite of this one. And there you go. So this is Elena. And looks like quite a bit of convection there. You see the feathering is certainly evident on the northern and western side. Probably will strengthen a bit before it makes landfall, but again, not forecast to become a hurricane. So that pretty much wraps up what's going on in the tropics tonight. So here we are, back full screen, Mr. Rayo. We are back full screen. So it is now time for let's do a little Briller Jeopardy here.
Like my shirt, by the way.
Hold on, I have to. Uh, oh, Weather Prophet. That's cute.
Yes.
That's cute. Yes.
Okay.
Um, okay, let's do Briller Jeopardy here. Tonight we're on average lows for the month of September, folks. Okay, average low temperatures, and the first one on the board tonight is Richmond, Virginia. Richmond, Virginia.
Okay. 60.
Well, that's a pretty good guess. You're pretty close. You're pretty close. Vincent Croce at 63 is in the land of snakes, and Jason Fox and Mike Waterhouse with 62. Tyler Fienga and Paul Roman 62. Joe 62
Very.
is for Richmond. Now the next one is Rochester, New York.
I would say Rochester is probably. How about 55?
Very close, very close. In fact,
Jack
uh,
Benny? It's a,
Gerasimos, I can't, Gerasimos Stasinos, 54. He's got it, 54, and Latex Dreams with 54. You've got dancing around it with 55 and 53. It is 54. Okay, the next one is San Antonio. San Antonio.
oh, God. Ah. San Antonio, 70.
You may ring the bell for yourself, Joe.
And also for John Melander.
Yes.
There you go.
All right. Next one is San Francisco, not to be confused with San Francesco. San Francisco.
But it was Sam Francesca.
Well, maybe it was San Francesco from
Whatever.
I Love Lucy.
Yes.
Yes.
All
San
right.
Francisco.
Well, they're by the bay, and we've also spoken many times about how July and August could be very chilly, downright chilly, and it starts warming up a bit by September. I'll say, I mean, 61.
That's a little too high.
Oh, well,
A little too high for San Fran. I'm just scanning here to see. Up, Mike Waterhouse. Mike Waterhouse got it. 60, 56. No, I'm sorry. My glasses. It's 56 is the correct answer. Mike Waterhouse, you had 55. John Melander got 56. So there you go, 56. And just checking to see the rest of it. Yeah, the number you were dancing around it, 58, 56, 57. But 56 is the right answer. Washington, D.C. is the last one.
what did we say for Richmond?
62.
Well, it can't be that hot in Washington. I'll say it. I'll say I'll say 60.
Uh, nope. I already see that Paul Roman got it at 64.
Really? It's
64.
warmer
And Northern Grace, 64. Yeah, Richmond is, Richmond's it's an urban area, but it's small. And then surrounding Richmond, it's just sort of wide open.
yeah, you're
If
right.
you ever driven in Southeast Virginia, where it's, around Washington, D.C., I mean, that's a very big metro area there.
Right, right.
So it holds on a little bit with the heat at night. Last but not least, for the bonus is Mount Washington, which I spelt wrong on the chat board. Sorry, folks, I was typing too fast. Mount Washington, the average low for the month of September.
Let's see. Three, and there was 60, and there's
Yeah, it's just not obviously to take
22.
the square root of this and the derivative of that, and you come up with
This is the normal low temperature.
yes
It's
for the month of September, the average low temperature for September.
let's try 35.
Ring the bell for yourself.
Really?
Yeah,
I did a quick. I was using my calculator, and I was just doing the calculation based upon a dry adiabatic of uh,
I had a
3.
feeling. I had a feeling that's the road you went down.
Yes, yes. But I also had to have a base number to try to subtract the number of degrees, which was like 22. So I just took a wild swipe at that.
Took a wild swipe.
Yeah,
Well,
whatever.
JJ was so impressed that he got off the bed and he laid down on the floor. That's how impressed he was by you taking that
Nice.
wild swipe. All right. Well, we are at the doorstep of the weekend, as I like to say. Well, tomorrow is what I usually say it on a Friday. Um, I'm going to go see my grandkids on Saturday, so that's my day. And JJ's going to meet the two new kittens that my grandkids have. So that actually should go well. He really I took him to my friend's house. We were playing poker last night. I took him with me, and he's got two cats, and he just ignored them. Just could not care less.
Well, I told you off air that Mr. Sweeney, our dog, is not particularly enamored with our grandson. When he appears, Mr. Sweeney makes a quick exit. He's not particularly happy when our grandson shows up.
Have you had him sniff the baby?
Yeah, but
Or maybe like get a blanket that the baby, maybe the baby's blanket or something, or a towel or something like that, just so that they get familiar with the scent. He'll get used to it.
we've tried. I just also brought up for anyone who happens to be in the Hudson Valley this weekend in the vicinity of Putnam Valley, where I live. Um, Mrs. Rayo would like very much for me to mention that we are having the annual German American Social Club of Peekskill Oktoberfest under the giant party tent, rain or shine. Look it up on your GPS to find 11 Kramer's Pond Road here in Putnam Valley. September 14th, Saturday, it runs from 3 p.m. to 10 p.m. Sunday from noon to 7 p.m. Continuous entertainment. Um, there's going to be great food. I can attest to that. And beer, Joe. You can get beer at the Oktoberfest. They'll have lots of that from the beer truck. Ample parking is available. $10 for adults. If you have a child under 14, if they are accompanied by you or an adult, can get in for free. And all the information and details can be found at www.1936.com, or you can call 845 528 5800. That's 845 528 5800. One more time, 845 528 5800.
Out of town, please call collect.
Out of town, call collect. Yes, exactly.
Oh yeah, what was the mattress? What was the mattress place that they used to do that for?
I remember the commercial. I
Yeah,
remember.
remember the commercial was when we're not talking about, we're talking way back. We're talking like in the '60s and '70s. There was a mattress company, and they gave their phone number, and it was Murray Hill 5 or something, whatever it was. And they would do it on the commercial. They used to say at the end, it was like they give you the phone numbers. Out of town, please call collect.
I,
And
I
then there was one commercial I remember. I think it was a radio commercial where they said, "Out of town, please do not call collect."
ah, ah, in town, call direct. Out of town, lots of luck. I
Right,
remember,
exactly.
I remember there was one company, and again, I don't even, because again, we're going back like, I wouldn't even say how many years. AX7. That was the exchange. AX7.
AX7, that does ring a bell. AX7, but what was AX?
Well, I don't know.
Axelrod,
It,
Axelrod 5.
I mean, AX, that's a very unusual exchange. That would be on our phone, that would be 19197, but they actually used AX. I don't know.
Well, on one of the Perry Mason episodes I watched last night, they gave gave a phone number out. It was Norcross 5. I don't know what I know. What is that on the dial?
Norcross?
Norcross.
That would be six, six, six. M is N is six and O is six.
Oh, maybe it was Norcross 6. Maybe it was 666.
Yeah. Back in the day, like for example, on the honeymooners, they would give you a phone number.
Right.
But now,
Right.
when
Well, the Ricardos were it was circle. Well, it was circle 72098, and then it became Murray Hill 59099. I'm not sure. I wonder why they changed it.
now, if it's a TV show, they always say five
Five
five five.
five five. Yeah, yeah. Because the no numbers with 555.
Right.
Right.
And latex streams, yes, Renata is German.
Hence your involvement with the German club.
Yeah, well, I'm an Italian boy from the Bronx,
That's
and
right.
German, and she always tells me you are volunteering this weekend for us at the German club, because if you don't, then you can just say goodbye to dinner for the next month. In other words, I will not be fed.
Right, and we know how you are about cooking. So, uh,
Exactly.
all right, everybody, have a great weekend.
If he doesn't
I
cook,
got
if he doesn't cook for me, then I'll just go to the Colonel and the Clown. That's where I would get
yeah.
my.
What's the clown? McDonald's?
McDonald's.
Oh, okay. No, I made zucchini muffins this morning. I made a dozen of them. They're very good.
Oh, you know
Yes.
what? I'll move down and live with you. You could cook for me.
Well, you know what? I rarely eat out. In fact, I actually went out to dinner here last Saturday to a local place for the first time. I've been here for almost 4 years, and I mean I've gone out to a few places, but that's always been that's with the dog. We have a monthly dog park luncheon for everybody at the dog park, and then there's been one or two other events that I went to. But as far as going out to eat on my own, that was the first time in the 4 years I've been here that I've actually done that. I hardly ever buy, go. I certainly don't eat fast food, and and so I'm going to make it a point that maybe tomorrow night I may go out to dinner.
Okay.
All right. So everybody have a great weekend. We'll see you Sunday night at 7:35 p.m. Eastern time. Night night.